And so, without further ado, the first question I have for you is that, well, it starts with a statement. So you've told me before that for a system to change, the members have to make a change of consciousness or awareness. Can you explain more? And this goes back to what you were kind of already just starting to explain in the intro. And how do we currently operate? Why do the way we think and the way we act go hand in hand?
Exactly. Maybe I can begin with a statement that that we use a lot, and it's about the success of an intervention depends on the inner condition of the intervener. No, it's like, okay, so whatever we do depends on our inner condition. It seems very clear for most of the people, but sometimes we are not very aware of how we are doing things. And basically that's the first challenge. We maybe need to be aware that from what place we are really making the things, you know. So that's the first or the basis of our work, no? To begin to turn the camera, instead of just outside, to turn the camera to the inner place from where we are acting.
And so maybe going back to this kind of first part, can you explain a little bit more? For a system to change, the members have to make a change of consciousness.
Yes, as I said previously, this inner condition really affects the way we act outside. So it's really, in order to change the actions we do, we need to change our consciousness, to be aware of how we are and what we want really to create. Because consciously or unconsciously, we really are creators of what is outside of us. So that's why it's so important to first be aware of who we are, what we are creating, and what we want to create. No, so to be aware really of how we feel, how really we want to impact in the system, because whatever we create, we are impact in the system. So if we don't, we are not aware of from what place we are creating, we can create something that really doesn't help to our environment. So that's the reason why it's very important to be aware of ourselves. Maybe when we are creating something, and I think each of us has the experience to not feeling well and just doing something outside, and really it's worse than ever. So it happens. We say in Spanish, we say that we get up from the bed with the left foot. Yeah, right. So it's like, and all the day really comes worse than ever, no? And basically it's because of that, because something there was maybe bothering us, and we didn't give the space to just feel and sense, and to create this space of really care and love for ourselves. It doesn't have to take so much time. So basically that's why our inner condition impacts in our creation.
And what I'm kind of getting from all of what you said, if we have a system now that's not working for us, and you're kind of saying right now, as if you get up from the bed with the wrong foot, we have to, in order to see a real system change, we have to change the way that we are approaching it, change the way we are approaching ourselves, in order to have then a system outside of us that is different. Because if we don't change how we are reflecting inside, how we are feeling, like how we are expressing, how we are experiencing what it is to feel, then we will just keep reproducing the same systems that aren't working. This is kind of what I'm getting from.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to really to make through my work. because as we're very used to see just our little spot, and we don't turn the camera to us, no? Instead of just seeing that the bad things are outside of us. We have really creators of that, consciously or unconsciously, no? And that's why what you said and you summarized is right.
Super. So, Edith, in conversations that we've talked a lot, so extensively over the past few years, and in conversations that we've had prior to the Food Shift conference that happened in 2021, and during the conference itself, you also told us a lot about the importance of listening to yourself and listening to others. And when we've talked about this, it's also come up. You've mentioned that we are currently in an ego mindset, and what we want to transition to is an eco or ecosystemic mindset. So taking that into account, and maybe if you can explain to us this ego versus ecosystemic mindset, that would be great. And also to help us understand, why is listening so important? And why is it so important in helping us go from an ego to an ecosystemic mindset?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this ego mindset really comes, I think, from education, because we usually just see ourselves or our small system like a bubble. Exactly. We are really in this bubble, and we just whatever we do, we just see our bubble. No, the bubble, and we normally are not careful about what is outside this bubble, because we are always, as we said before, we are always impacting our field, our environment. So maybe in your family, maybe with your friends, in your work, whatever you act, you are impacting your small bubble. So basically, we are very used to see just our point of view. And for example, now we're really in this big challenge that we have as a society. We have to go out from this space and see really the borders of this system that we want to act on. That's why, for example, I think a very interesting and daily example is the cars, the electric cars, for example, that although it seems that is very useful for the environment, because we don't use the carbon to produce it, we also are generating a lot of batteries that maybe when they can be used anymore, what are we going to do there? So so it's like just seeing our own bubble means that we don't listen to the other parts of the system. And I also find that many times in many spaces there are people who lead some kind of project and don't see the whole system they are trying to serve. So if you go with your thinking that what the ideas you already have about some challenge of the society, so maybe you will add from those ideas. But really what is important right now more than ever is to listen to all the agents of the system, especially the agents that are in the border of the system, because they have a lot to say about the challenge we have now. So that's why listening now is a very useful tools that we can use. And listening really is not just listen, okay, I listen to you. No, it's in a place of a deep listening. It means that first, to listen, we have to take out from our mind our previous ideas, and to get out of our prejudice about some problem. Basically, that's to begin to listen, to empathize with the other person that you are talking about. But listening really begins in ourselves first, because we have like two voices, no? This ego voice and the other voice that is from the creative side, that is another voice that usually, that's why it's important to begin with our own listening.
So basically, like, kind of listening to yourself, listening to your own consciousness brings you more awareness of what is happening outside, and it enables you to start listening to these other voices. So essentially going from that ego mindset to this more ecosystemic mindset. I really like what you said as well, that there are so many voices, that especially at the fringes of our bubbles, of our environments, and that those are the ones that we should be listening to. Who are those people for you, or who are the voices that we should be listening to more, that are on this kind of fringe?
It depends on the system you want to serve. But for example, sometimes we talk about some collectives, like for example, vulnerable people, because they can find a job, or maybe because they come from different countries and they have really, for example, here in Barcelona, and they don't have opportunities because maybe they don't have so many studies or whatever it happened. Sometimes I can see that many organizations bring some solution to this problem, but I can see also that this organization doesn't ask many times to these people what are their view about their problems, you know. So maybe and to also to invite to different agents from the system to listen. We have to listen to each other, because we all of us has their own perspective, their own ideas. So we need to create these generative spaces when we can share and we can be touched by the other. You know, that's why it's very important to create these spaces of listening, but deep listening.
I think it would be important to note too, because this conversation, of course, is going to be in an ebook that is geared towards like food system change. And an example there, if somebody has an initiative around I don't know, for example, producing microgreens hydroponically, like listening to all of the different voices that are somehow engaging in that system, and then producing the innovation from that place, from like having all of these voices already in mind. That to me comes as like a tangible example. I think that could be really quite powerful, and then trying to see how a single initiative could really tackle an ecosystemic problem, not just a punctual one.
Exactly. I think as an entrepreneurs and as a social entrepreneurs, we should go to look to the system we want to impact. Because if not, we are just making a solution from, as I said, with that ego vision. So it's important to listen to different voices, and from that space to create some solution for the system. So each agent can be really reflected on that solution and be for really a positive impact.
So that being said, I think like narrowing in kind of on the innovation at the conference last year, and this is also related to what you're saying with the ego mindset, but at the conference the other year, you commented on the reactivity of innovation nowadays. In what sense do you think that social and technological innovation has been reactive, and what happens when we come from a space of reactivity?
Yes, really, I say that is a reaction creation because we normally use this way, just from ideas we go to the action, no, and really there's no a process of going deeper, no, to really going to the roots, going to see what is there really behind the challenge, no, instead of just creating from a place that we already know, is going deeper. That's what I mean with is a reactivity, really a reaction instead of making an action from a different place, no. It's all about what we have been talking about, the level of consciousness. And I recall now a phrase that Einstein said, that we can solve any problem from the same level of consciousness, no? So really to make a difference in the solution, we need to see deeper, no? It means that we have to feel and sense what is happening in the problem, no, not just to react, no. We are very used to act, no, we want to solve, we want to do, and it's not all about doing. It's also needed to really sense into what is happening with whatever challenge we have, and that's why it's important to really sense. There's also a phrase I remember from Otto Scharmer and Theory U that says that to change a system, that system need to see and sense the system and what they want to really create.
We need to see and sense the system like fully, no?
Exactly, all the members.
Okay.
All the members of the system, because when you see and sense, it's very different from the place of just ideas, no. It's going deeper, no, and really to be aware is to really be aware of what is there, no. That sometimes because we are very in a hurry, we really don't pay attention, but instead of rushing, we should try to have these spaces of stillness. Really, when we, instead of just react, no. For example, when you have a conversation and you don't like something, sometimes we tend to just answer, and after that you say, oh, why I gave that answer or whatever, no. So that's why it's important, this more than ever, these spaces of stillness, to just to sense into what is really what we want to create.
Yeah, so that we are not coming up with superficial answers or superficial innovations, because we've seen that superficiality isn't working for fixing the problems that we have at a societal and environmental level. I really like what you said about going deeper in yourself. Is it enabling you to go deeper than in the problem itself outside of you, and really taking this more ecosystemic mindset and approach to creating innovations or impact that is from a more holistic or deeper space.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's needed really going deep, no, and that's what I like to talk about, the transformation from the roots. Really, it's not superficial, because we are really creating new seeds of the future. So you have to take care of that, and that's a quality and a capacity that all we have, but we have forget it. I don't know why, but we have forgotten about that, really.
Well, we've become too superficial. We are moving so fast all of the time. It's not very conducive. The society we live in isn't very conducive to going deeper, because if you do, you get left behind.
Exactly. I think as we have right now too much stimulation, and so it's really difficult to to pay attention. And that's why I say that more than ever is needed to pay attention first to our inner condition, how we are when just we are going to some meeting or just to take some time of silence, for example.
And I like the idea that, or I like to think then from this, in the long run then, if you are taking the time in that moment before you act, in the long run it benefits you much more, because you are not then maybe second guessing yourself or changing what it is that you're doing, because you've really felt it before you act. Whereas opposed to if you're just running and running and running, sometimes you act, you're not thinking as much, and then you have to redo it or rethink, and you end up having more of those episodes later on. So it's a way to make the most of your time as well. From like an investment perspective, it makes so much more sense to do what it is that you're mentioning.
Exactly.